Live from the White House. Here to help us break down this first day of the Trump-Xi summit is Heritage Foundation senior advisor and Fox News contributor Michael Pillsbury. It's great to have you here. You're also, and you did serve as a key advisor to President Trump on China. So I'm so glad that you're with us today. You heard from Ed Lawrence about all the trade decisions, the Boeing deal, the 200 jets. What do you make of this first day of meetings between these two leaders? In particular, that salvo that got kind of thrown across the table about Taiwan and that warning, which reportedly came at the beginning of that 2-hour summit between the two leaders.
Well, the Taiwan warning has been a problem for the last couple of years. A lot of new people you see, Cheryl, at this summit on the American side were not around back in 2017. They've had to learn the kind of mysterious way we have promised since Kissinger and Nixon to talk about Taiwan. We can't say Taiwan is part of China. We can't say it's not part of China. We just stress peaceful settlement. And we've been doing more and more things that are the Chinese consider to be violations of the agreement on the one China policy. We say no, we haven't really changed that much, but they have a pretty strong case that they've got examples. So that was a surprise, but otherwise, this was a stunningly successful first day. We're talking about a massive investment China might make in our country that is under control, nothing that's sensitive or connected to security or dangerous to our country. Then the same thing on the Xi Jinping's promise on his side to open up Chinese markets, not just to the 17 CEOs, but to the entire U.S. complex of economic enterprises. So this is President Trump's vision, that we're careful with China. We don't want to have them take advantage of us. We're ending the ripping us off for 30 or 40 years, but we've got to make money ourselves for affordability back home, for our own growth rate going up, for just general fairness from China. So he's taken this really bold step by bringing these 17 CEOs and his new cabinet members, including Pete Hegseth from this Department of War, and really trying to build a new way to think about China, that we've got to get from them what we want, the way they've been getting from us what they want the last 30 or 40 years. I think it's a big success, Cheryl.
What do you make about the conversations with regards to Iran and the Strait of Hormuz? I mean, obviously China wants the Strait of Hormuz open. We are now seeing data that's showing us that the tanks in Iran are full at Karg Island. They would have to stop pumping. That could be detrimental to them. Not a bad thing, I guess, if you're on the side of the United States. At the same time, though, what kind of role do you think Xi Jinping can play with regards to Iran? And do you think that those commitments are actually, I hate to say it, but in earnest? I mean, we trust but verify, I guess, when it comes to China.
Yes. No, I think the Chinese have a number of parallel views to President Trump when it comes to Iran. Number one is the Chinese agree Iran should not have a nuclear weapon. They say because Iran signed the Non-Proliferation Treaty decades ago. Secondly, the Chinese put a lot of pressure, I think, on Pakistan to host the talks, a neighboring country to Iran, kind of lure the Iranian team to come over to Pakistan, meet with us, and then move toward a deal. So that's two things that they've already done. The third thing would be the statement I think might be coming that China wants an immediate end to the conflict and is prepared to put pressure on the Iranian Ayatollahs to bring that about. Don't forget, this is the Iranians' best friend, has now been visited by Iran's biggest enemy, you might say, President Trump, to try to put pressure on Iran to make a final deal. So if this happens because of China's help, it's going to have a positive effect on President Trump. I'm almost sure of that.
I want to ask you about this comment that came from Xi Jinping. Again, this came at the summit. And at one point, he brings up, it's the Thucydides Trap. And basically, this refers to how one stronger power, established power, and an emerging power can go to war. And many saw that as a veiled threat. Maybe it wasn't even a threat with a veil. It was just a threat. What did you make of that?
It is kind of a threat. Xi Jinping first said this back in 2013 when he took over. Basically, the idea is 16 times, apparently, in history, the rising power and the established power go to war as part of the rise And the old power usually crushes the rising power. So the Chinese are saying, we don't want that. We want a promise from you Americans that you will not stop our rise and you will not start a war, and crush us. The Thucydides Trap metaphor is a couple of Greek city-states where one feared the other one too much. So it was unnecessary war. No American president has accepted this. Even Obama, after a while, Obama rejected the idea. I think President Trump is simply not going to make any comments. It spoils the atmosphere in a way to say, we promise not to have a war with you. It's really an unnecessary promise, unless, of course, there's a Taiwan invasion, and then we would probably have to fight.
Right. Well, and certainly, again, with the issue of Taiwan, there's an entire business story that we're going to get into later with regards to AI chips. Michael Pillsbury, thank you so much for being on the program today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Cheryl. As you can tell, I'm really bullish.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to hear your take on things, because it was a lot to decipher as we were watching these events play out and these comments coming from Xi Jinping. So I really appreciate your perspective, Michael. Thank you so much, sir.